A few weeks ago, I decided to go camping. I thought it would help clear my mind after my divorce. I wanted to reconnect with my love for photography and escape for a few days. I wasn't a rookie in the woods, but it had been years since I last camped. I set up my tent in this small clearing, surrounded by tall pine trees. It was peaceful. Just me, my tent, and the distant sound of a creek. I felt good being alone in nature. But I can't shake off what happened next. On my first night, I took some photos as the sun went down. Later, I sat by my campfire, enjoying the warmth. Then I heard laughter. It was faint, like children playing, drifting through the trees. I thought it was wildlife or maybe other campers. It felt charming, but something about it didn't sit right. The next evening, I was again at the fire. The laughter came back, but this time it felt urgent. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But shadows flickered at the edge of the firelight. I squinted, trying to see better, but nothing was there. I grabbed my flashlight and decided to investigate. I wandered over to an old, abandoned cabin I had seen earlier. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, it smelled of dust and mold. I found a dusty scrapbook. Flipping through, I saw reports of lost children in the area. My stomach twisted. I wanted to breathe fresh air, so I hurried outside. As darkness fell on the third night, I felt a prickling sensation on my neck. I sat against a boulder, hoping the feelings would pass. The sounds of nature surrounded me, but I was still uneasy. Then I heard it again, the laughter, clearer, closer. My heart pounded. Was it footsteps? I wasn't sure. I wanted to call out, but doubt held me back. Who would be there? I held my breath, straining to listen. Then all at once, the laughter stopped. I felt cold, as if ice ran through my veins. That's when I saw it. A figure, a silhouette just beyond the trees. It looked small, like a child, but I couldn't be sure. I blinked hard. Nothing moved, so I looked away. When I turned back, it was gone. A rush of fear washed over me. I wanted to leave right then, but something held me back. I squinted into the darkness. Then, I heard a whisper. "Why are you here?" I froze. I didn't know what to do. I felt like something was watching me. The woods felt alive, holding their breath. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I tried to remember the path back but felt lost. I turned, wanting to run. The laughter returned, echoing through the trees like a twisted game. I still don't know what happened that night. I never stayed to find out. I packed up my things and left at dawn, never looking back. I thought leaving the woods would put distance between me and the eerie events of those nights, but the memories clung to me like the dampness of the morning fog. I returned home, but my mind felt heavy, stuck in that shadowy clearing. The divorce was still fresh, but now I had something darker to chew on. I spent the following days trying to regain my focus, but every sound made me jump. A door creaking open felt like laughter in the trees again. I pushed through work, trying to distract myself, but I had this nagging feeling, I needed answers. What really happened back there? So, I decided to return. Maybe it was foolish, but I wanted to face my fear and understand the laughter, the whisper, the figure. I believed that if I could capture it on camera, I could make some sense of it all. So I packed my gear, ensuring I had extra batteries and food. I left the city early the next morning, the sun just beginning to rise. When I arrived at the campsite, it felt different. The air was heavy with an unsettling stillness. I set up my tent quickly, every rustle of branches making my heart race. The woods looked the same, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching me again. As night fell, I lit my campfire, the flames dancing and casting long shadows. The laughter had not returned, but I felt its echo in my bones. I positioned my camera, hoping for a clear shot of something mysterious. Time passed slowly as I waited for the darkness to envelop me completely. Then I heard it. Soft, almost like a song. The laughter floated through the trees again, but this time it didn't just scare me. It felt like an invitation. I froze, the camera poised in my hands. My rational side warned me that I should leave, but curiosity held me back. I followed the sound deeper into the woods, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. As I walked, I tried to remember the layout from my previous trip. I reached the old cabin, its frame barely standing. The laughter grew louder and more chaotic. It was almost jubilant, like a party was happening just out of sight. I thought someone might be playing a trick on me. "Hello!" I shouted out, almost laughing at myself for how silly I sounded. But all I got in return was silence. Then, a mist started to roll in, thick and cold. I shivered. Something wasn't right. A movement caught my eye near the cabin. I turned my flashlight that way and spotted a small figure darting just out of the light. My heart dropped. Was that the silhouette I'd seen before? I called out again, my voice shaky. But no one responded. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The silence felt suffocating. I glanced down at my camera and gasped. My battery gauge was dropping rapidly. I took a quick shot, hoping to capture something, but the flash illuminated nothing but the old cabin. Then everything went dark. The battery was dead. Panic gripped me. I was surrounded by shadows, completely unprepared. I began to back away from the cabin, but something shifted in the periphery. The air turned electric, and I could hear breathing, heavy and close. Who was there? I stumbled, my foot catching on a root. I needed to get out. But just as I turned, the laughter erupted again, now mocking. It wrapped around me, tightening like a noose as I realized, I had awakened something in those woods. What had I just uncovered? I was frozen, panic coursing through me as the laughter echoed just beyond sight. I had to make a choice, stay paralyzed in fear or break free and run. My instincts kicked in, and I bolted toward the direction I thought was the trail. Branches whipped at my face as I stumbled through the darkness, my breath quickening. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the roots clawing at my ankles. The laughter followed, playful yet sinister, and it made me sprint harder. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat felt like a warning. As the cool air bit at my skin, I caught a glimpse of the flickering campfire through the trees. Trees swayed wildly, trunks looming like giants ready to swallow me whole. I pushed myself forward, desperately needing to reach the light. Finally, I burst through the last of the branches and stumbled into the clearing. The campfire was a welcome sight, but the shadows it cast danced menacingly around the perimeter. I grabbed my flashlight and circled the area, feeling exposed, skin prickling unnaturally. I needed to think. My gear lay scattered, and anxiety crept back in. What was happening? I remembered the little figure. I swore I'd seen something darting near the cabin, but now my mind felt fogged in doubt. Could it have been a trick of the light? My radio static interrupted the silence. A pop, a crackle, then a voice. "Help someone!" The voice sounded far away and terrified. I froze. It wasn't coming from my gear, it was coming from the woods. I felt drawn to it, yet terrified. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the urge. But the laughter returned, clearer now, circling through the trees. "Help! Help!" it teased and begged simultaneously. I recognized the voice. It was my own, distorted, twisted into something else. Dread filled my chest, constricting my throat. I needed to make a decision. I couldn't stay at the campsite, it felt tainted, marked with whatever was lurking out there. The call was insistent. I grabbed my gear, my flashlight shining and pulse throbbing. I had a desperate plan. I needed to reach the cabin again and find out what was really happening. With shaking hands, I stepped away from the fire. I turned my flashlight off, letting my instincts guide me through the dark. I walked slow, cautious. The laughter was closer now, leading me somehow. I may have been filled with dread, but the urge to learn the truth overpowered my fear. Reaching the old cabin again, I resisted the urge to turn back. It stood like a sentinel, its form silhouetted against the night sky. I took one deep breath and pushed through the creaking door. Inside, darkness enveloped me, heavy and thick as if the air itself was alive. Then I heard it. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by the quietest of whispers. "Come play with us." The voice drifted through the cabin, each word wrapping around me like a vine. I blinked in the dense darkness, fear twisting low in my gut. As I focused on the shadows ahead, something shifted, and I realized, I wasn't alone. Something pressed behind me, cold and close. I turned to face it, my heart racing, and that's when I saw it. A pair of eyes glowed back at me from the other side of the cabin, watching, waiting. My stomach twisted as I stared at those glowing eyes. They were unblinking, fixed on me like a predator sizing up its prey. I wanted to scream, to dart back outside into the night, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. The whisper returned, soft and taunting. "Come play with us." It seemed to come from everywhere, a chorus of voices all around me. My head spun. I had to act, to do something. I reached for my flashlight, fumbling with the switch in my trembling hand. Suddenly, the eyes moved closer, emerging from the shadows. The figure was small, almost childlike, but its shape was twisted, contorted in a way that sent shivers down my spine. I could make out ragged clothing and dirt-streaked skin, but its face remained obscured by darkness. I finally managed to click on my flashlight, illuminating the cabin. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing the space more clearly. The walls were lined with old, rusted tools, cobwebs hanging like curtains in the corners. And then I saw more eyes, their gleams reflected everywhere, small, dark silhouettes lurking in the edges of the light. Panic surged through me as I stumbled backward, colliding with the door. It creaked ominously. "Please, don't be scared." The figure pleaded, its voice sweet yet sinister. "We just want to play. Play." The laughter echoed in my mind again, a reminder of the recent horrors. My heart raced again, pounding loudly in my ears. I had to get out. The urge to flee was overwhelming. "Stop!" I shouted, though it came out shaky, weak. "What do you want?" The figure paused, tilting its head slightly. "We want you to join us. We've been waiting a long time. Forever." A chill danced down my spine at the implication. I glanced towards the door, but as if sensing my intent, the shadows pushed closer, filling the gaps. "Join us?" I stammered, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. My instincts told me to resist, to push forward through whatever was blocking the exit. But the tiny voices, those eyes held me in place. "It's so much fun," it promised, its grin sharp and unsettling. "You'll never be alone again." In that instant, something snapped within me. I couldn't stay. The weight of despair and dread dragged me down. I bolted, flinging myself toward the door, my flashlight beam sweeping across the cabin as I tried to push through the throng of darkness. "Come back!" they wailed, voices rising in a frenzy, and I felt invisible hands grasping at my clothes. I shoved the door open, bursting outside into the cool night. I didn't look back, legs pumping as I sprinted into the trees. The laughter followed, mocking, teasing, but I forced my mind to focus. I needed to reach the trail, to find help. As I ran, branches whipped at me, and I stumbled over roots, the ground uneven. The call from the woods echoed in my ears, the playful chorus lingering in the air. I couldn't let it pull me back. I had to keep moving. But just when I thought I was breaking free, I tripped over something solid, a fallen log. I crashed to the ground, my flashlight rolling away into the gloom. In the darkness, the laughter faded, replaced by silence. I held my breath, fear clutching me. Then, the sound of soft footsteps approached, deliberate and slow. I was not alone anymore. As I gathered myself, preparing to face whatever was closing in, I thought I heard a whisper again, lower and clearer this time. "You can't escape." Just as the words settled in, the ground trembled beneath me, and everything went dark. I woke up with a start, gasping for air. My senses were on high alert, but everything was dark around me. I felt the cool earth beneath me, and my body was tense. Had I really just slipped into unconsciousness? I wasn't sure how long I'd been out. I pushed myself up, heart racing. The woods were silent now, almost too quiet. The laughter was gone, but the memory of it curled around my mind like a fog. I scrambled for my flashlight, patting the ground around me until I felt the cool metal. My fingers closed around it, and I quickly turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the twisted branches above and the broken log next to me. I was still near the cabin, just a few feet away. Panic began to rise again, pushing at my chest. I glanced behind me into the trees, half expecting to see those glowing eyes staring back. But there was nothing. Just the shadowy silhouettes of the forest, swaying gently in an unseen breeze. Somewhere in me, instinct kicked in. "Stay calm," I told myself. "Take a deep breath." I needed to move, but I wasn't sure where to go. My phone was dead, and I could barely remember the way I came. I needed distance from the cabin, but something deep inside felt drawn back there. As I stood, brushing dirt from my clothes, a faint sound reached my ears, a low, rhythmic thumping. My brow furrowed. I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. The sound was all around, as though the woods themselves were pulsing. Whatever it was, it felt like a warning. I steadied my flashlight and stepped forward, trying to follow the noise. Every crunch of leaves underfoot sounded like a shout in the silence. I kept moving, navigating through the trees, careful not to stumble again. The thumping quickened, matching the beat of my racing heart, and I felt a strange pulse in my own chest, like I was somehow connected to it. Then everything changed. The ground trembled again beneath my feet, but this time, it wasn't just clumsy roots. Something emerged from the earth. I stumbled back, panic rising, and the air shifted. Figures began to form out of the shadows, gliding toward me. They were small, just like before, but their outlines were more distinct now, revealing those familiar glowing eyes and ragged, dirt-streaked clothing. "Play with us," they chorused, voices dripping with a strange mixture of sweetness and anger. "No. Stay away," I shouted, backing away, frantically looking for a way out. I could feel the ground beneath me shift, unstable like the very air around them. The thumping grew louder, resonating in my bones. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. As I turned to run, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flicker of pale light deep in the shadows. It was different from the eyes, more inviting. That's when I saw it, a body, limp and lifeless, sprawled beneath the gnarled roots of a massive tree. The thumping stopped instantly, leaving an eerie silence that felt like it was closing in on me. I froze, breath hitching in my throat. I was no longer terrified of the little figures. This sight was a nightmare coming to life. I had to get out before it was too late. I turned back to the cabin, adrenaline surging as the darkness pulsed around me. The whispers stirred in the air once more, but this time I felt a horrible weight behind them. I ran, calling for help that would never come. I burst through the underbrush, scrambling toward the cabin as fast as I could. My lungs burned, and I fought the urge to look back at the figures, the whispers, and the body. I had to focus. I had to get inside. As I neared the door, I fumbled with the wooden handle. It felt cold against my palm, covered in moisture from the night air. The door creaked open, echoing through the stillness. I shoved it wide and stumbled in, slamming it shut behind me. I rested against the door, fighting for breath. The silence inside was heavy, almost suffocating. I let the beam of my flashlight sweep across the room. The old furniture loomed like specters in the dim light, casting long shadows that danced along the walls. I needed to find something, a weapon, a way to protect myself. I searched the tiny kitchen, rifling through drawers filled with rusted utensils. Nothing felt right. I flipped open the cupboard above the sink, but all that greeted me was dust. The rhythmic thumping pulsed faintly from outside, a haunting reminder that I wasn't alone. I shivered, feeling the weight of eyes on me even through the walls. Then I saw the fireplace. There had to be something there. My heart raced as I moved to it, the floorboards creaking under my weight. I reached inside, my fingers brushing across the soot-covered surface. My flashlight flickered briefly, illuminating an old iron poker. I grasped it tightly. It felt solid and reassuring in my hand. A sudden knock at the door jolted me. My pulse quickened. I froze, unsure if I should answer or hide. My mind rampaged with questions. Was it the figures? Had they followed me? Or worse, was it something else entirely lurking in the dark? "Let us in." The voice came from outside, tiny and familiar, echoing the same haunting melody from before. Panic swelled in my chest. They were playing with me. I had to resist the urge to give in, but their voices wrapped around me like a cocoon, tempting and sweet. "Go away!" I shouted, gripping the poker tighter. "You can't have me." Silence settled for a moment before the knocking resumed, louder and more insistent. It felt like the walls were vibrating with each impact. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was outside was not just teasing me, it was waiting. Then, just as abruptly as it had started, the knocking stopped. The silence drained from the room, replaced by an unsettling stillness. I held my breath, straining to hear anything beyond the weight of my own heartbeat. Had they left? Or was their silence just part of some twisted game? Before I could think too much, I heard a soft sigh flow through the cracks in the cabin. It sounded almost human, but it carried a lilt of something deeper, something darker. I took a cautious step forward, glancing behind me at the door, half expecting it to burst open. And that's when I noticed movement from the corner of my eye. Some dark figures gathered outside the cabin's window, their glowing eyes fixated on me. I stumbled back, heart racing. I wasn't safe. I would never be safe. Something cold and foreboding pulsed through the air as I realized I had to leave the cabin. But where could I go? Determination surged. I had to find the truth whatever it took. With one last look at the figures outside, I made my choice. I was leaving this place. I could no longer wait for dawn. I needed to uncover the secret hidden in the woods before it was too late. I turned off the flashlight and clenched the poker tightly as I approached the window. My heart pounded in my chest, echoing in my ears. I peeked through the dirty glass, and my stomach tightened. The figures were still there, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark. They stood motionless, their silhouettes blending into the night. I couldn't stay here any longer. I took a deep breath, placed my hand on the doorknob, and turned it slowly. The door creaked again, a warning sound that made my skin crawl. If I was going to escape, I had to be quick and quiet. As I stepped outside, I felt a chill wrap around me. The air was thick with tension, and every rustle of leaves felt like a hidden threat. The figures didn't move. They watched me, unblinking. I couldn't tell if they were waiting for me to make a move or if they were simply toying with my fear. I started to move through the trees, careful to stay low. The darkness enveloped me, but I had a mission now. I needed answers. I needed to know what I had stumbled into. As I navigated the dense brush, fear clawed at my resolve. I reminded myself that I had the poker. It was my only comfort. Suddenly, a sharp sound broke the night, a crack, like a twig snapping. My heart lurched, and instinctively, I spun around, peering into the shadows. Nothing stirred. I stood frozen, my breath quickening as I fought the urge to run. I couldn't let fear control me now. Then I remembered the old tales the locals used to whisper about the woods. Stories of lost souls and haunting spirits. They flashed through my mind like old film clips. My heart raced with a mix of dread and determination. What if the tales were true? What if I was being hunted by something far worse than I imagined? I pressed on, moving deeper into the woods. Behind me, the faint sound of whispers drifted through the trees, wrapping around me like a fog. It felt like they were calling my name, their voices rising and falling like a forgotten song. I gripped the poker tighter, ready to face whatever awaited me. Then, I stumbled across something unexpected: an old stone altar, covered in moss and entwined with roots. Confusion washed over me. What was this doing here? It looked ancient, abandoned, but the air around it felt charged. I stepped closer, my flashlight casting an eerie glow on the surface. That's when I saw the markings. They were inscribed into the stone, worn but still visible. My blood ran cold as I recognized them from a book I once read. They were symbols of a ritual: sacrifices made to appease the forest spirits. I backed away slowly, panic strangling my thoughts. The tales hadn't just been stories, they were warnings. Suddenly, loud rustling erupted from the trees behind me. I turned, adrenaline exploding in my veins. Something was coming. Just as shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, a piercing scream rang out, echoing through the night. I knew then that this was no game. I had awoken forces I didn't understand, and now I would pay the price. I sprinted into the dark, the poker clutched tightly, desperate to evade whatever pursued me. I wasn't just running away, I was fighting for my life. The earth felt alive beneath my feet as I raced through the trees, branches clawing at my clothes like desperate hands. Every instinct screamed at me to run faster, to escape whatever hunted me. My heart pounded louder than before, drowning out the rustling and whispers in the dark. I dodged a low-hanging branch and stumbled, hands grazing the damp ground. The coldness seeped through my jeans, shocking me back into alertness. I pushed off the ground, breathless, still clutching the poker. If I could just make it back to the cabin, I might be safe. But deep down, I knew that the woods were closing in around me. The whispering voices were getting clearer. They weren't just echoes of my imagination, they were real. I strained to catch the words, but they were muffled, blending with the rustling leaves. Fear twisted in my stomach. Were they calling me? Or warning me? Ahead, the pines thinned out, and a faint glow flickered in the distance. I squinted, hoping it was the cabin. I darted toward the light, but as I drew closer, I realized it wasn't coming from my shelter. It flickered like a candle, moving in a wavering, unnatural way. My gut twisted at the sight. What was it? I hesitated. Curiosity battled with caution. I needed to know, but was it worth the risk? I remembered the altar and the symbols. That final scream echoed in my mind, sending a jolt of dread through me. I had to see, even if it was a mistake. As I edged closer, the glow revealed itself: a small fire, surrounded by a circle of stones. But it wasn't just any fire, it was alive, pulsating, almost breathing. I dropped to my knees, stunned. In the dim light, shapes danced around the flames, their outlines shifting and blending together. And there it was, the source of the whispering. They were figures, shadowy and indistinct, but their eyes were bright like molten gold, just like the ones I had seen watching me from the window. Panic surged through me as I realized they were not alone. In the heart of the circle lay something wrapped in a dark cloth, a shape too still and silent. Suddenly, one of the figures turned toward me, its gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I scrambled backward, my heart racing, but before I could turn to flee, another voice struck me, clearer than the rest. "Join us. Join us." The words echoed in my mind like a haunting invitation. An urge mixed with terror tugged at my consciousness. I didn't belong here. But part of me wanted to know what happened to those who did. The ground shook beneath me as more figures emerged from the trees, surrounding the fire. I gripped the poker tightly, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down on me. There was no escaping this now. I was caught in a web of ancient rituals, and I couldn't look away. And when I saw it, the thing wrapped in cloth began to stir. I gasped, adrenaline surging through me as I realized I was no longer just an observer. I was part of something far greater, and the forest was waiting for my decision. What would I choose? The figure within the dark cloth twitched again, and my breath hitched in my throat. A sharp movement, then stillness. The shadows surrounding the fire leaned closer, their eyes glowing like embers, mesmerized by whatever was happening in the center of their gathering. I was frozen in place, the poker heavy in my grip, my instincts screaming to either fight or flee. "Join us," the voice repeated, but now it sounded desperate. Not a command, but an invitation infused with urgency, laced with something darker. I couldn't shake the feeling that this invitation came with a price. The figure unraveled from the cloth, revealing a gaunt silhouette barely illuminated by the flickering flames. I could hardly breathe, my mind racing with horror. I didn't want to find out what the figure was, but I felt trapped, as if an unseen force had shackled my feet to the ground. One of the shadowy figures stepped forward, its face obscured. "You must embrace the truth. You cannot turn away." Each word dripped with conviction, resonating deep within me. Fear mixed with a twinge of curiosity. What truth? What did they want from me? Behind me, the trees swayed, the whispering escalating into a frenzy. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The forest seemed to writhe, branches bending unnaturally in the dark. The woods enveloped me, blocking any escape. I was surrounded, and retreating felt impossible. A low growl resonated from the depths of the forest, shaking me to my core. Was it the shadow figures? Or something far worse waiting beyond their circle? My pulse quickened, the primal urge to survive battling against the decadent pull of the fire and its silent unveilings. "Step into the circle," the lead figure beckoned, extending a hand toward me. Its arm blended into the darkness, just a hint of light tracing the outline of its elongated fingers. I shook my head, desperate to resist. My instincts warned me, but each second that passed brought a heavy weight on my shoulders. Suddenly, the wrapped figure shifted again, and I could see more clearly the features of a face, but twisted and warped beyond recognition. An agonized expression flashed before me, eyes wide with terror. I stumbled backward, the truth crashing down like a wave. Whatever it was, the thing they wanted me to join was not something I could embrace. It was a warning. The flickering fire seemed to accelerate, growing larger, brighter, and the whispers morphed into wails chilling and hungry. I felt my resolve crumble. I couldn't stay, but the circle pulsed, beckoning, filling the air with electric tension. Then my instincts kicked in. I turned and bolted, adrenaline igniting every muscle in my body. I raced away from the fire, branches clawing at me, the whispers still haunting my ears. I didn't dare look back. The growing crescendo of voices followed me as I stumbled deeper into the woods, heart pounding. There was no leaving this. Whatever fate awaited me, I was ensnared, yet I had to escape. But then I heard it, a new sound and echo that made my blood run cold. Someone was following me. My breath came in frantic gasps as I plunged through the underbrush, desperate to escape whatever darkness pursued me. The rhythm of footsteps, quick and unyielding, echoed through the trees behind me. My instincts screamed to push forward, to find a way out, but fear churned in my stomach, weighing me down. A part of me was convinced I'd never make it back. The forest felt alive, the trees shifting around me like a maze designed to keep me ensnared. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, and urge to look back battled with the overwhelming fear of what I might see. So, I forced myself to focus on the path ahead. I glimpsed a break in the trees, a sliver of moonlight beckoning me through the darkness. Hope surged within me as I dashed toward it, breaking through the dense foliage. But my optimism quickly faded as the moonlight illuminated a familiar clearing. The abandoned cabin loomed ahead, bathed in ghostly light. Just then, laughter broke through the silence. It was low, fluttering, and altogether haunting. I skidded to a halt, feeling panic grip my throat. The shadows creeping in the corners of my vision twisted and darkened, almost as if they were alive, inching closer. I couldn't go back inside. It was a trap. But as I turned, the soft whisper returned, beckoning me. You can't escape. The chilling softness felt intimate, as if it wrapped around my mind like a familiar caress. Desperation morphed into confusion, every instinct within me warring with what I knew. This wasn't just about the children of the forest. This was something larger, something ancient that thrived on fear. In one last attempt, I glanced back at the cabin. The laughter mingled with the whispers, a melody entwining in a way that felt intoxicating. Dread coiled inside me. I had stepped into something beyond my understanding. I turned and bolted. One foot after another, I sprinted toward the tree line, racing against the memories that clung like shadows. The darkness loomed thicker, consuming me piece by piece. The twisted forms that had come to life in the ghostly glow were now behind me, closing the gap. I could feel them breathing down my neck. And then, nearly tripping over my own feet, I stumbled again but caught myself. I grasped for an anchor a nearby tree and turned, eyes widening as figures emerged. They were just as I had seen before, distorted faces illuminated by the remaining moonlight above. They extended their hands in invitation, reaching for me with eyes that glowed with a strange mixture of yearning and sadness. Join us. You belong here. The whispers danced around me, turning into something almost musical, luring me closer. I fought desperately against it, flinging myself away from the figures, frantically searching for an exit. Suddenly, I remembered the altar and ran toward it, a half-formed plan taking root in my mind. If this was about ritual, perhaps I could use the symbols for protection. The ground shifted beneath me again, and I felt the weight of something intangible pushing at my back. The whispers turned sharp, turning my name into a taunt as the figures followed. But I couldn't stop now. I needed to get to the altar before it was too late. Finally, I reached it. Breathless, I collapsed near the stone, my heart racing as the knot of fear threatened to consume me completely. I stared at the symbols, desperately trying to draw strength from the ancient etchings. Perhaps the stories were true. They contained something powerful. The figures drew closer now, their eyes shimmering like stars, their laughter echoing like a siren's song. They pressed into my mind and twisted my thoughts. Join us, they sang sweetly, but now the hunger was evident in their voices. The tension thickened, and I could see them in the flickering firelight creeping along the edges of my vision. But my willpower surged. I would not let fear define me. I could still escape. With renewed strength, I shouted the crude sigils from memory, my voice growing louder as I fought against the pull. I refuse. I am not a part of you. As the words left my mouth, the ground trembled. The air crackled, and the spirits shrieked in frustration. The glow around me flickered, brightening, pushing them back, as shadows danced around the stone. But even as I found a moment of clarity, the ground shifted again, and my footing slipped. In that instant, everything went dark. When I awoke, I was lying on the forest floor, alone. The sun filtered through the trees, painting the ground in hues of gold. I pushed myself up, shaken and disoriented, unsure of how much time had passed. The cabin was a distant memory now, the chilling laughter faded like a dream at dawn. But as I rose to my feet, the unease never left. In that quiet moment, I felt the forest breathing around me again. I could still sense their lingering presence, their whispers echoing faintly as shadows shifted between the trees. I was free, maybe, but not without consequence. I didn't look back. I began to walk, heart steadying as I moved toward the distant sound of a creek, yet the weight of what happened clung to me. I might have escaped, but the questions remained unanswered, a haunting echo in the hollows of my mind. Did I truly leave, or was I forever marked by that night? I never returned to those woods. I couldn't. But a small part of me still hears their laughter in the depths of the night, wondering if I was truly free or merely another story waiting to unfold.